Hello, class. Welcome to our first lecture with Introduction to Physical Therapy. Today, we'll be talking about student learning success, which comes from Chapter 1 in your textbook. Today, we'll various learning styles and the rules for learning, learning resources and strategies, test-taking strategies, and creating a lifelong plan. You may or may not know that as a physical therapist and physical therapist assistant, one of the pivotal criteria for maintaining your license is to continue with your education. That's where lifelong learning will begin. At this point, however, we want to make sure that you have a good foundation in understanding your learning style and also understanding what it will take to be successful in the PTA program. There are various learning styles that you can take note of that will help you in understanding how you learn. For some people, they're visual learners. Some people, they opt for auditory. They need to hear whatever they're listening to be able to retain it, to be able to repeat it. Some people are kinesthetic learners. They need to be hands-on. They need to be able to touch and feel and experience whatever the content is in order for it to stick. Those that are analytic want to be able to rationalize and reason, and they are very astute at drawing those connections and making sense of the information that's being taught. Then finally, the person who is a spatial learner is going to be one that is able to look at the big picture, but also understand that they can sequence the information that they've been given. They can find the symbolism in what they've been given and draw those inferences that sometimes those that are more analytical might miss. It's important that when you're forming study groups that you have a good combination of all of these types of learners. In your lesson for this week, there's a questionnaire called the VARC. It's the Visual, Auditory, Reading, and Kinesthetic Questionnaire. And there's a series of questions that you'll go through in order to get a better understanding of what your learning style might be. I encourage you to take a moment to do that. It'll actually be part of your assignment for this week, but it will be a great resource and a tool to gain insight into how you learn. And that will be useful information to me because then I can cater learning experiences to help you learn at your best potential. Learning how to use a textbook is very important and can make a difference in how you learn throughout this curriculum. One of the tools that the book points out is the SQ3R method. This stands for survey, question, read, recite, and review. You should begin by surveying the chapter just to read. You're not looking to highlight, you're not looking to create a bunch of notes, but you want to look at how the author takes the time to compartmentalize information, how they've outlined the chapter and the resources that they're trying to instruct you in, and the objectives. So once you have a good sense of what that is, you know how to navigate. It's your map for understanding the content in the text. Then you're going to think about the questions that could be answered by the reading. This is an important step that a lot of students miss out on, but it's very important because it'll help prepare you when it's time to take your exams. It will make the difference between reading and understanding. So when you're able to create questions, it calls for a higher level of understanding of the content in order to know how to best assess that content. The next aspect will look at how you read. And many times students will take their highlighters and highlight every single line. And that's really not productive. You want to be able to read through the chapter section by section, and then once you're done reading, take notes on what you recall. You're going to do that for every section that you encounter in the chapter, and then go back and repeat that process. Go back and review and compare what you've written to what you have read. Any areas that are incomplete, you can go back in and fill in the gaps. This is very critical to making sure that your notes and that your study time is being used to its best ability. The internet has changed the way that we learn. And by virtue of this class being held online, when traditionally it's been a lecture taught in a classroom, definitely shows how resources have expanded and how we've been able to use the internet to expand our learning. We want to be sure, though, that the resources that we find on the internet are legitimate, are factual, and can corroborate what you found in your textbook or what you've heard in lecture. Peer-reviewed articles and journals are very important to what we refer to as evidence-based practice in the field of physical therapy. Evidence-based practice is the understanding of whatever intervention we do being aligned with research that has been found to be credible, valid, and reliable. When you have experience working with various patients and you're able to establish your baseline of understanding why you use a hot pack or why you might use ultrasound or why you might use stretching or a particular strengthening technique, having those things grounded in research will not only solidify your understanding of using it at the right time and with the right patient, but also be able to be your foundation and your support should those things be challenged through a court case or through even a lawsuit. You have a foundation that you can stand on and rest assured that what you're providing to your patient is sound, evidence-based practice. The library is going to be an excellent resource for you to find material. Unfortunately, the library may not physically be available to you during this semester. As we move through the COVID-19 pandemic, we may find that resources in the library might become available, but again, we won't have that as of yet. However, we have the Galileo tool, which you can find in Blackboard in your resources at the top of the screen. Galileo is a search tool and mechanism that you can use to find not only peer-reviewed articles and journals, but textbook resources. Your bibliographies in your various textbooks are a great place to start when trying to find more details about a particular subject matter. From those bibliographies, you can type that information into Galileo and it will allow you to find those actual articles and content items to better assist you in your learning. Being able to reach outside the textbook is going to definitely help to solidify information because it is a new experience. I'm sure you've heard the term that familiarity breeds content. And when you have something such as a textbook, it can kind of become mundane to constantly go to that as your resource for understanding your content. But when you're able to go and look at research articles and look at peer-reviewed articles, you can gain a higher sense of awareness of that information. And it will more than likely stick because you've reached a point where the information that was in the textbook is now corroborated by another source. Student services is offered to you all remotely through Student Success. Atlanta Technical College Student Support Services includes tutoring. They have counselors that are available to help, financial officers that are available to help. Resources that are provided through student services will be very useful no matter what your situation. Even if you find that there is a difficulty with keeping up with certain things in class, accommodations can be made so that you can reap the benefit of having maybe extended test taking time or having your information presented in larger font. Whatever the need might be, student services and student support services are available to assist you. You can always reach out to any instructor or myself as your program coordinator to find out more details about these resources. Some test taking skills are going to be very important as you go through not only this class, but throughout the curriculum. Students who do not learn good test taking skills are working in an unseen disadvantage. In almost every objective test, students give up points needlessly because of undisciplined testing behaviors. You might have irrational responses, or you may misread certain information that would clue you into what the correct answer is. Maybe you're the test taker that has to finish within 20 minutes. Maybe you're the person that has to take the entire time. We want to make sure that we're fostering good test taking strategies as we go through each class. Successful test taking in physical therapy is going to involve applying critical thinking, critical reading, and avoiding making careless mistakes. These careless mistakes can be any of the following: not reading the directions carefully in an exam, making sure that you're not too rushed trying to start the test and finish the test, not monitoring your test time and having good time management. On average, you should spend less than 2 minutes on a question item. And that doesn't matter what question or what test or exam it is. So we try to cater our tests to challenge that. Some tests might give you 2 minutes per question. Some might give you 1.5 minutes. But it's to foster a sense of, I need to know this information well enough in order to sit for this exam and get through it efficiently. Changing your original answers due to second guessing. So many students are guilty of doing this. You should keep your original answer. That's usually your best answer. Research has shown that the first intuition is more likely to be correct. If you're changing your answer, then you really should have a strong feeling that you either didn't read the question correctly or you rushed through understanding the question. Not allowing yourself enough time to go through the test is so critical and can cost you a lot of points. You should always leave time so that you could go back and check your answers to make sure, number one, that you did not leave any blank, and that you understood the questions as they were read. Not clearly identifying what the question is asking is another hang-up that a lot of students face. You should underline or highlight important words that will help you answer the question or help to provide context to the question. And we'll go through some of these things through the module. Because most of your work will be online, you won't have the opportunity maybe to highlight, but you do have access to a notepad and pen that you can jot down important information. That way you can always refer back to that when you go back to review your questions. Because of the ever-changing nature of healthcare, conscientious professionals will always be curious and interested in learning new developments within the field. In the beginning of this process, you as PTA students need to consider all of the different aspects of this textbook and have the suggested resources and topics of learning that will pique your interest. Make a list of the topics that you find interesting and find resources that can better help you have a lifelong learning plan. I hope that this information has been useful and that we've been able to give you a little bit more insight into what it is that will make you a successful student in the PTA program. At this point, you should be ready to sit and take the VART questionnaire, but one of the assignments for this week will be for you to create a lifelong learning plan. We're going to ask you to create your learning profile and include what your learning style is, include information about some of the barriers to learning that you've had or encountered in the past, as well as the things that were successful for you in your learning. I'm going to challenge you to include information about how you're going to construct your study time and what ways that you might reach out to your classmates to help better your learning experience. So good luck to you, and we look forward to our next opportunity to share more information about this wonderful world of physical therapy. Take care.